Hello. Clap it.
Oh my gosh. It's because his sleeves are freaking right here. Look.
It works fine. Okay. Hello. Bonus episode of This Podcast Is Not For You. My name is Wes.
My name is Jake.
Cool. We are talking about the film Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. This movie just came out not too long ago. Mm-hmm. It is a A24 film. All the rage right now. A24. Independent cinemas. They are just cranking them out. Mm-hmm. It is directed by Daniels, quote unquote, which is Dan Kwan and Daniel Scheinert. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly.
That reads right.
But collectively, they're known as Daniels. Written and directed by them. Before this movie, they also made a movie called Swiss Army Man, starring Paul Dano and Daniel Radcliffe.
Radcliffe.
This movie stars Michelle Yeoh, Ki Hoi Kwan, which is, most people will know him from Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom. Mm-hmm. He played Short Round as a kid. He was also in Goonies as a kid. And then Stephanie Hsu, HSU. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
You stuck the landing.
Thank you.
Well
done. And Jamie Lee Curtis is kind of the other name in it. We saw this the other day. Jake, you have seen it twice. Peyton and I have only seen it the one time. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty wild.
Yes.
Needless to say.
Yes.
So before we get into discussing some spoiler-free stuff.
Before we discuss spoiler-free stuff? Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is spoiler section.
I want to see...
No, this is spoilers. This is spoiler-free.
Okay.
So
before we get into the spoiler stuff...
in hums and beeps.
What is your best description of what this movie is about? Give me your best description, Jake.
A mother is contacted by a multiverse version of her husband. A wife is contacted by a multiverse version of her husband, warning her of some sort of danger, and she is the best version of herself to combat said danger. That would be it.
Wow. That was a pretty good description. Peyton,
Mine's
you have a better one?
Ready?
Here we go.
Go.
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
Perfect.
That's the perfect description of this movie. That's what I have. That's what I was coming back to, and I was trying to describe it to somebody else. It's like, that's it. It's probably the best example of a title fitting how the movie felt that I've seen in a long time.
The kitchen sink is in this movie. It's just constant.
Yeah. Yep.
I think your description is the best spoiler-free description of the plot, probably. It's a sort of a family story, family drama.
Yeah.
But way more complicated and convoluted than that.
Yes.
So, spoiler-free discussion.
Okay.
This is before the spoiler-free section.
Right.
Okay.
What did you guys think of the movie? Jake, what did you think after your first viewing, and then how was it on the second time?
Yeah, when I walked out, I saw it with my fiance, and we were kind of just like, not really saying much of anything, and she was like, that was crazy. And I was like, at the very least, it's impressive.
Yeah.
At the very least, if you think that the story was stupid, I rolled my eyes when we saw the trailer. I was like, I am so over this. Like, you know how, if you've a long-time listener, you know how we feel about multiverses, but it's like, just the idea is boring now. Mm-hmm. And so I was so over it. Mm-hmm. And I walked out and I was like, I could see if you hated that, at least you can be like, that was impressive. So those were my initial, walked out of the first time feeling, Yeah.
And you wouldn't have that feeling if Multiverses hadn't been being done to death.
Yeah.
And also probably currently being done by one of the biggest, film corporations at Marvel.
Yeah. I think this, and it's a smaller contained thing, obviously, but I think that it does more with less, way more successfully than Marvel is even close to doing in terms of their multiverse stuff.
Well, the reason for doing it is very different, I think, with Marvel.
Yeah. But anyway. those
Yeah.
were my first initial things.
Peyton?
It's very similar. Pretty floored. Pretty very entertained, and there's a lot to think about. Extremely creative, I would say, and the best iteration of a multiverse thing that there is.
Yeah, I feel like I came out of it having been really entertained, and it was fun.
Yeah.
Like just fun and silly, funny, good action in it, like, and creative is just the word. Like, just off the wall stuff that you did not see coming.
Right.
Choices made that we thought were going to go one way, and it's just like, oh no, we're still doing this bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just very distinct. I had a little bit of problems with some of the messaging of it, which we'll probably get into in the spoiler section, but not in a way that's like not in a way that takes away from the creativity that they had and the things that they did accomplish. I just think some bigger picture choices could have been better in terms of what they were trying to say with all of their creativity. But we can get into that in a second. And then I just thought the performances were all really great and funny. And yeah. So those were our general thoughts. We'll get into spoilers now, I guess. Unless there's anything else we want to say. Do we want to do any more discussion about this? I was saying this before we started rolling. This is a hard movie to talk about concisely because it's so complicated and convoluted, and there's so many things going on in it that
I was exhausted after watching it in a good way. But it was like, I mean, it is all over the place in terms of tone. It is hilarious, and then it's sad, and then it's really dramatic.
Yeah.
And then it's hilarious again. And then it's an action movie.
At the same
It's like-
time as it's being funny.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was really like enthralling in the truest sense of the word.
The one criticism I think I had just in terms of practically was it felt long.
Yes.
And it is longer. 2 hours and 20 minutes is a little bit longer than I think you would expect a movie like this to be.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say that it overstayed its welcome necessarily, but I think it could have benefited from trimming down.
Yeah.
It would have made this stuff be a bit more impactful, I think.
Yeah, you just get fatigued naturally.
And I think we said this in the post-movie circle. When a movie is this relentless in terms of pace and it doesn't really mix it up as much, it can feel longer because it's just like boom, boom. It feels like kind of getting like hitting the head over and over again, you know? But is there anything else that we wanted to say before talking about spoilers?
So yeah, if you didn't think that it looked interesting, or you don't know anything about it, or maybe you saw Swiss Army Man and you weren't super into it, if you like well choreographed action, if you like absurdity, if you like poignant storytelling, if you like, for the most part, when I was very surprised and happy and pleased with A24 in this regard, appropriate entertainment. Now, I mean, there's a couple things where it's like, could do without that. But in terms of like, I mean, A24 most of the time is on
pretty intense.
Yes, and not always appropriate for.
It's like IFC.
Yeah,
essentially.
And so I felt like, for the most part, it's fairly clean. I mean, I think there was some language, but I don't. I mean, that doesn't bother. I mean, that's just not something that I struggle with at all. So
yeah,
but
I would just disagree with that because the couple things that were pretty like wild. You know what I mean? Like
I don't. In the spoiler-free section, I don't know.
we can talk about the spoilers.
Okay.
We'll get into that.
So mixed bag on that.
Yeah.
So maybe not. I guess you'll have to see for yourself.
I would definitely recommend it because it's just you have no idea what you're in for going into that movie. Like you can watch a trailer and you're like, oh wow, that looks kind of like all over the place and crazy. Yeah, like
you
that's
don't
an
even know where the
understatement.
plot's going.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what could be coming next.
Yeah.
And it just keeps taking left turns constantly. Not in terms of plot, just in terms of like what you're actually looking at is so wild and weird that it's just constantly interesting.
That's the other thing I was going to say before spoilers, maybe, I guess, is the amount. This must have been an absolute nightmare to make. I can't even imagine making this movie.
Edit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of set changes, the amount of costume changes, like, there was a lot that went into that movie.
And like, changes aspect ratio, changes frame rate.
Right.
And it's just like, the set changes and it's
and then characters playing multiple versions of themselves and needing to
physical
keep performances
changes
straight. And, yeah. It's
it
pretty,
must have been an editor's nightmare.
It's pretty impressive. Before we get into spoilers, it's doing pretty well financially. It had a $50 million budget, correct? I can't see.
Yes, we looked that up.
Yes, it had a $50 million budget, and we just saw recently that it hasn't had very much drop off at all in terms of audiences. Like, how many days ago was it? Like a 115% increase in terms of people going to see it.
I think it was like 3 days ago or something. Yeah.
So the total worldwide gross right now is 38 million. And for an independent movie like this, I feel like that's pretty good. I mean, A24 is not making movies that rake in hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
This one's going to be a cult movie that lives for a long time.
And it's increasing in word of mouth for sure.
Yep.
Like more and more people are going to see it more recently than they were whenever it first came out, which
for sure.
I'm not sure when the March 25th was the official release date.
So it's been out for 38 days.
And then wide release was April 8th. So it's been out for a while, but it feels like it's gaining traction, So let's get into spoiler discussion. Just to start off, there's just scenes in it that are just so bizarre. Spoilers. So bizarre and weird. The ones in particular that you were talking about, or that I was referring to in the last section, where you felt like it's fairly clean.
Right, okay.
But there's a couple scenes where I'm just like, it's a lot. Is a character beats up and kills guys with giant dildos, and then two characters are in a choreographed like kung fu fight scene with trophies stuck up their butt, and it's
those are in the same movie.
Yeah, it's silly and funny. It's not super graphic, but what's happening is not clean necessarily. You know what I mean? And that's just so like strange and off the wall that it feels. So that's what I mean whenever I felt like it was bordering on the couple scenes that are inappropriate are pretty inappropriate.
I see. I mean, on the A24 scale, I just absolutely disagree. I mean, like the Midsommar stuff.
Sure. I just mean generally speaking, but I agree with A24.
That's really what I meant. Okay. Yeah, for sure. On the A24 scale is really...
Yeah. A24
or even like Lighthouse
stuff.
had...
a lot of stuff in it, yeah.
A couple sequences where it's like...
Yep.
Figured you'd go there, kind of wish you didn't.
Right.
Now we have to sit through it, where it's like...
At least this was like humorous.
Same with Green Knight. Green Knight had that...
Just the one scene,
very, very... Like, that was just... And I was already not into it, and it's just like... But I mean, that's like... It's censored, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's, it's like... The other guy has pants on. So, I just never felt like... But on the A24 scale, for sure.
Yeah. And I guess it does sound worse than it is in the movie. But yeah. There's just scenes that are just so off the wall and weird. I think my favorite joke in the movie is that she doesn't think that
Who's she?
the main character thinks
Last
that
Mohicans.
Ratatouille is Raccacoonie, and then you see a universe where that actually happens, where instead of a rat controlling a kid, it's a raccoon, and it's an animatronic raccoon that we found out later is voiced by Randy Newman. It's just so strange and off the... But the joke that we talked about afterwards is it keeps cutting back to that world and the story of this guy and the raccoon that controls him with his hair. And it's like taken off in a truck, and then they got to go after the truck.
Yeah.
It like becomes its own subplot briefly.
Yeah.
There's a world with hot dog where every human being has hot dogs instead of fingers.
That's the most impressive part about the different universes, specifically because they make the joke, and then not only do they explain the joke, they say, she jumped to a universe where the evolutionary branch went a different way and everyone has hot or whatever, and they hilarious. They show a scene from it, hilarious, and then it cuts to the apes with hot dog fingers killing the last
it's
ape.
It's a 2001: A Space Odyssey
So
reference.
funny.
Yes,
killing.
I think that's the part that killed me the most.
Yeah.
Is it goes that far?
Yeah, and so it's 10,000 and it's like they're killing the last one with human hands, you know.
And then the introduction later, after you've seen the universe with the hot dog fingers quite a bit, the introduction later that everyone becomes really good with their feet.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
like someone's playing piano with their feet
Yeah.
and like caressing
And-
one another with their feet.
And those two characters it even ties to like the main universe. Those two characters like actually becoming
Yes.
friends
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
It's so strange and just bizarre. And
I think the most impressive thing is like, and you guys literally clapped after it was done, but the first fanny pack fight scene is crazy.
Yeah.
it's so funny.
The shot of the fanny pack rolling over with the camera on it as it's going in a circle is just like,
Yep.
and you don't really know what you're getting into yet at that point. So you're just
That's
like,
really the kickoff point where things are going to get weird.
yeah.
To be honest, I wish more of the movie was like that. A little bit more grounded combat kind of thing, like that. Or maybe one more scene like
Yeah.
it, I think
Yeah.
would have been really cool.
Like, yeah, it does get pushed to an absolutely absurd degree where
Very quickly.
like she goes to a universe where her pinkies are super, super
A lot
strong.
of Kung Pao vibes.
Yeah,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
it's just so off the wall. And
So we probably should talk like more generally about like how do you feel the pacing, the acting, the plot.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say the most impressive thing to me out of all of that stuff was I thought the performances were great. Specifically, the guy that played Short Round. He has not acted since he was a child, really. He's been an assistant director and a stunt coordinator for a while. He did stunt coordination for the X-Men movies, which I did not know.
Weird.
But he was so funny in it and really, really good at switching between all of these personalities. I think pacing-wise, I think it could have used about 10 minutes cut off, 10 or 15 minutes. Especially near the end, it started to slow down a little bit. Like a lot of it's in slow motion at the end. And for dramatic effect, I get it. But after relentless pace, then it really slows down. And you just it feels like it needs to end sooner than it does a little bit. But, and then the last point I was going to make, and then I'll let you guys kind of share how you felt about it. But I didn't love the message of the movie, which it felt like they almost didn't really have one. It's been talked about as like kind of tackling nihilism, like nothing really matters. And the movie kind of lands on that side of nothing really matters, so find stuff to care about, and so care about the little moments with your family that are good. And I just don't think that's a good answer. If nothing matters, that's not enough. Being kind is not enough. Like
the movie's too big to care about something that small.
Yeah.
To really like make you care about something that small.
And I think that's too profound of an idea for a movie like this. Like, I think the strengths of this movie are the absurdity of it and like the silliness. Ground the plot in something much more relatable and connectable to people as opposed to, also nothing matters and just like, I guess, find connections with your daughter.
Yeah.
I think if the underlying plot was a bit more, or the relationships, I guess, were a bit more traditional, like reconciliation happens.
Basically, the motive of the antagonist
Yes.
was more clear.
Oh, and the relationship
concise.
between the protagonist and the antagonist. The antagonist of the movie is the protagonist's daughter. They don't have a good relationship, and we don't need to get into the details of like the multiverse aspects of their relationship, but
Yeah, I think if it was a little more human, of like all of the antagonism is just based on their separation.
right.
I think that is more human. The ending feels a lot more impactful.
A little bit hopeful too.
Yeah.
Um,
I like the jump that they did. I liked the effort, the ambition of going for something that huge of an idea.
yeah. I just don't think they had an answer for it.
Yeah, I don't think they landed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my biggest criticism of the movie, is I felt like the messaging, like the theme and the point was lacking in terms of weight. It didn't feel like they had anything actually deeper or meaningful to say. And there was so much going on that I wanted something a bit more either simple and relatable or something more profound. They were like in the middle, you know what I mean? It's like they strived for something sort of, but then didn't really get all the way there. But wildly entertaining, wildly creative, and still worth a watch. I think that's just a weak point of the movie, in my opinion. How do you guys feel about it?
Nice.
Just talk at the same time.
Like I said, in the post movie circle, I think my biggest takeaway was upon second viewing, learning to love and appreciate all the different versions of the people in your life. So there is a giant monologue about being nice and being kind, for sure. So I absolutely understand, people grabbing that this is what the filmmakers were trying to say. But I think that feels like they were trying to say so much that that is one of them for sure. That, to me, the one that I grabbed the most from was, there's a universe out there where Jamie Lee Curtis and the mom, they have a romantic relationship or whatever, and her being able to pull from those emotions gives her empathy for Jamie Lee Curtis's character in the main one that we've been watching, and so
It's almost like Inside.
Yeah. And so that's...
Inside Out, sorry.
Yes, Inside Out. I assumed that's what... Not Bo Burnham.
It is not like Bo Burnham's Inside.
But yeah, so that's... I thought that was a good message, and I don't think that was by any means the dominant thought of the movie. But I do think that there's some... It's nice to see quality independent cinema getting recognition on this level. It opened in 10 theaters.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. And now it's in, I think it's 2,100 or something.
Yeah,
2220.
So it's nice to see this. To me, this feels like a script, a movie that got made, and then A24 bought the distribution. That's what it feels like to me.
Could have been.
And I don't know if that's the case, but that's what it feels like to me, because it's so...
$50 million is absolutely nothing.
You said
in terms of,
the visual effects department, the special effects department,
I'm pretty sure it had five people on the team. Yeah.
And I think I said this to you as we were driving afterwards. It's like, it felt DIY.
Yeah.
Like the animatronic raccoon, the scene with the dog. Like, it looked like they just got like a stuffed animal and put it on a
leash. And they weren't
leash.
ashamed of it.
Right.
It was like, this is what it is.
Yeah, that's what made it funny.
She's literally throwing a dog at someone. So it's like, who cares?
Jenny Slate's also in it. Jenny Slate's a name.
Who cares what it looks like? Like, obviously, it's not a real dog. We're not going to pretend that, And so, but yeah, it's nice to see, independent, high quality movies getting made and distributed, and recognition on this level.
Yeah.
With, I think, at least something positive to draw from. You know, maybe it's
Yeah.
not the end all be all of theology or worldview, but just the fact that the mom has conviction for taking a marriage vow when she's presented with the idea of having a divorce, you know, given to her, and she's like, "But we literally made a vow. Like, what's up with this? You know?" And it's like, that is even the fact that that's counterculture is sad, but it's
there's family stuff. There's father daughter. There's daughter mother daughter. There's husband wife.
So anyway,
Yeah.
And on top of all that, it's
two chickens,
hilarious, impressive. Chicken on goat.
Goat on chicken. Sorry,
You know.
I had to throw it in.
But yeah, anyway.
I thought Jamie Lee Curtis was the best part of the movie by far. I thought she was hilarious. I mean, every time she was on the screen, I couldn't stop laughing. She's basically just being
The slow motion.
Oh my gosh. She's just being gross and brooding, and it was hilarious.
I don't think I've ever seen her in something that just blew me away either.
Yeah.
Aside from this. I mean, this was like...
No, yeah, I think...
I was waiting for Jason to pop in somewhere. But, it's Jason, right? It's not Freddy.
It's Mike Myers. Halloween.
Isn't that his name? Jason?
Halloween.
Yeah.
That's Mike Myers.
Who's Jason?
Friday the 13th.
That's Freddy. Jason is Freddy Krueger?
Freddy Krueger is
Jason.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Who's Jason?
Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th.
Right.
Jason
Halloween
Voorhees.
is Michael Myers.
I was waiting for Michael Myers to pop out.
There you go.
We're going to make a super cut of that.
Touchdown turnaround, obviously.
Did I say touchdown turnaround?
I think it could have been shorter. I think the first act was a little draggy. Mainly the first scene. It was like really choppy.
Apartment.
Yes.
Yeah.
The dialogue was like really abrasive.
It felt like they wanted to get to the crazy editing stuff and didn't know how to edit normal things.
Yeah. It was really abrasive at the very beginning. And then once that first scene got through and the first title comes up, then I think it was smooth sailing. Again, not a bad thing. It's just it was fatiguing and it felt really long because of how much is happening constantly.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to be more. I think something under 2 hours would have felt better because you wouldn't have left the theater so tired. At least I wouldn't have. But I mean, hilarious and really creative the way they did the multiverse stuff. I thought specifically the only thing I was murky on a little bit was like when exactly it's affecting the other universes, because like sometimes you get punched and then it would cut to the other universe and they would be getting affected by it. I couldn't really quite understand the relationship between the multiverses.
It's probably intentionally a little bit vague.
Yeah. I love the idea that you have to do something insane.
Yeah, that was really
the
funny.
most crazy thing you can think of
Something
right now,
random and
to be able to
weird.
jump to a different multiverse.
Like she
It's
snorts a
hilarious.
fly at one point.
Yeah. I love the idea, and this kind of goes off Jake's point, of all these universes that are around hers being ones that are the most successful. Like 1 degree of a decision that you made 15 years ago would send you on this other universe, which is more of a realistic like interpretation of multiverse creation than I think Marvel has done, or I think other people have done, because it's just they exist.
Yeah.
This is actually
It's like butterfly
they
effect
exist because butterfly effect. They exist because. Oh, you're saying Marvel is butterfly effect?
No. This.
Yeah. It exists because of a decision.
Yeah.
So originally there was one universe, and then whatever. That at least is like more buy-inable than some Marvel stuff. And so off of Jake's point, I interpret those as being like the parts of her, of the main characters. Like she could be a really good singer.
Yeah.
She could be, what was another one that was adjacent?
Sign spinner.
Sign spinner.
Yeah.
Good at kung fu.
Good at kung fu.
I liked that.
But like an actress.
Yeah.
Good at kung fu.
I liked the concept that she has the most potential because she's the worst at all of it.
Right.
She's the worst version of her, like the lamest, which means she has the potential to do all of these things.
Yeah.
Which I
has
thought
the
was kind
most
of a funny.
access.
Yeah.
Because they're all really close to her.
Yeah.
Because she's one decision away from being good at this or good at this
Yeah.
or good at this or,
Yep.
you know. Yeah.
I loved that all the exposition had to come out of the guy that played Short Round because he's just funny sounding. Like his voice is funny and
It's scratchy.
yeah, and his accent is he's just funny too. I think he was a great choice for that character and he nailed it. Which I was surprised by. I don't know what expectations I had for
The other thing is, he's exactly the same as he was.
He sounds the same. His
Yeah.
voice is like one octave deeper, and that's it. He's the same.
Same energy.
Yeah.
I do think my favorite joke or the thing that he does in the movie is, okay, follow my lead. Oh my God. And he just starts like
Oh,
screaming.
man.
Because it's really
So
tense.
good.
And they're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. All right. Follow my lead when you can. Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch it again.
Yeah. I agree with a lot of what you said. If you were to cut 10 to 15 minutes out of it, I think it would be really solid in terms
Speaking
of
of
its
which,
pacing.
we're at 31 minutes.
All right. But yeah, I think we'd all recommend seeing it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a weird one. Prepare yourself to throw any expectations you have out because they're not going to match up. This movie is so
I will say
different.
this, though. I think it'd be entertaining to more of a mass audience, and that's being made pretty clear how many theaters there are now, than a lot of A24 and a lot of independent film.
Yeah.
Because I think it's just objectively funny. I think that people can think it's insane, obviously, and it is, but it will entertain entertain you, I think, for the most part.
It's insane, but not in a way that makes it completely
Incoherent.
not understandable. Yeah, like you can follow pretty much what's going on, and honestly, if you stop following what's going on, it's still entertaining. You know, like if you stop thinking about the logic of jumping between multiverse, you just get the idea that's what she's doing, then you're fine.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I think that's all we got.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
A lot of good movies coming out.
Yep.
A lot of good movies coming out.
Might be going to see Northman soon. I'm excited about that.
Maybe keep your eyes peeled for another bonus app.
Alrighty. My name is
Wes.